What up, guys? So recently I posted a video on the channel about drilling and some of the opinions of guys like John Danaher, and I shared my opinions on things. And one thing that happened, which tends to happen on the internet for some reason, is when you say that one thing is true or that you find one thing to be useful, you're then saying that the other thing is not true or that something else isn't useful. And that seems to be what happened here, where I was talking about the passive forms of drilling, right? And that's all I was focused on for the video. I try to make these videos relatively short for you guys so they're easy to watch. And so I was focused on that one little thing, that one little nugget. And then some people were saying, Chewy, are you saying that you don't need to be doing this or that or whatever? And so I wanted to clarify a few things. One, so that, again, we can go a little deeper into the idea and I can clarify my thoughts on training. But also, two, it may be useful to some of you guys with your training. Also, I just want to preface that all the comments for the most part were pretty cool. I appreciate you guys for being reasonable. So one of the comments said that you need to have an active resisting training partner to really learn the technique and that passive drilling isn't enough. Well, yeah, of course. I never said it wasn't, right? I mean, again, when I made the video, I was talking about that one facet of training. And again, think of a diet, right? It's like if I was saying, hey, you need to eat vegetables, or vegetables are a good idea, or fruits, or whatever the hell you want to think about it, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't be eating protein or fish or meat or whatever. I'm saying that like this one thing could be valuable to you. And that's what I was saying with drilling. I think that it can be valuable when it was done, or when it's done with intent and purpose, opposed to what a lot of people do. They just kind of slop through their drilling. They don't really think about it. They're not trying to get a feeling for the technique or whether or not they're improving with it, or sort of taking the knowledge that they have from previously using the technique under live conditions and then taking what they've learned from that to putting it to the passive drilling that they're doing. That's what I was getting at. You have to graduate to active drilling and active training because, again, that's what Jiu-Jitsu is all about. Combat sports in general, the reason why we value them so highly and know that they're effective is partly because they work. And they work because of the methodology of doing techniques under live conditions, right? Even if those conditions are gamified to the point where they're not 100% real, those skills still translate over pretty well for a fight. So for instance, a double leg takedown from wrestling. Sure, wrestling's not a fight in the sense that people are fighting with everything, but a double leg slamming someone to the ground is very real. Same thing with judo, same thing with boxing. Boxing is two hands, right? People can kick, they can bite, they can elbow. But again, in a street fight, boxing's not a bad skill to have. We value these combat sports, jiu-jitsu, boxing, wrestling, sambo, all these, because of how effective they can be for us. And again, the reason why they're so effective is because we work on using them under live conditions. Now, another comment that came up, people thought that I was calling out Kit Dale and Greg Souders with my marketing. I had like a little marketing rant in the middle of that. So I wasn't targeting in that, and I actually didn't know about this Greg Souders guy. I had to look up his stuff on Instagram. Cool stuff, I think. But they talk about games, right? Doing games. Now, I don't know all of their stuff, right? But from what I gather, like the game idea is what I call active drilling or scenario-based rolling, right? It's something I talk about in the ebook that I give away when you guys join my email list called Focus Jiu-Jitsu. I'm in the process of rewriting that because I originally wrote it back in 2012, and so some of my ideas have changed a little bit. But the core is there, right? You strip down bits and pieces of rolling to focus on very specific aspects of it to develop very specific skills, right? So for instance, recently at the gym, we were focusing on half guard, getting chest to chest, putting a person flat on their back and then passing. And so one of the keys was that we were talking about is on the bottom, if you're on half guard, if you're up on your side and you're able to play with underhooks and cross collars, you can play that position. It can be a very good position for you. But likewise, if the person on top can put you flat on your back and keep you pinned down, it's a great passing position. And so that was what we were focused on. And so for the first week, for instance, the skills that we were passively drilling were all about breaking through the knee shield, getting the person pinned chest to chest. And when we were rolling, everything was scenario based to where we were only focused on just pinning the person down flat on their back, and the bottom person, for the most part, was focused on just staying up and fighting that grip battle. Now, again, we're stripping down things to a great degree, and that's not what a real roll is going to be like, but that's going to help us develop the skill that we need for the regular roll when it comes time. And later on in the month, we expanded on those and added different things that we wanted to focus on. Another idea that I implemented back in 2014 when we started working more heavily on leg locks was a sort of drill to get people over their fear of leg locks, because when we started working on them back in 2014, our gym didn't really do a whole lot of leg locks, right? And so I noticed initially that when we were getting in there, I was watching people's eyes like light up as soon as someone would grab for a straight ankle lock or something. Their eyes would get big like deer in the headlights and they'd be freaked out. And so I wanted to get them over the fear of that, and I also wanted them to learn how to better defend their legs. And so one of the drills that we did is that we started with the bottom person would be engaging with only their legs. They could use their hands to post and move and make sure they don't get hit in the face, but they couldn't engage their opponent with their hands for like arm drags or grips or shin to shin or whatever they wanted to do. The top person could engage however they wanted to, but the top person could only submit with the leg lock. Now the focus of this was one, so the person on the bottom had a chance to practice with these different defensive elements that I wanted them to practice, such as getting your feet on inside position to keep your legs better protected. But it was also to essentially let them know you're going to get submitted during this drill and you need to be okay with it. And don't worry, don't freak out. We're going to keep the leg locks focused on a few leg locks that you will know how to defend and defend them the best you can, but be ready to tap. And again, this was a drill for them just to get used to that. And then the other person had to be the person on top had to be very crafty with their leg locks and had to set them up in different ways. And then we did several different scenarios where we would start them in leg lock positions and everything else, but we'd strip away certain aspects of a full roll. So this way we could focus on one little thing. We were taking a magnifying glass to one little element, take out all the rest of the stuff that would happen during a roll, where again, if you practice something and then you do a full roll, you may never get into those positions to actually practice those techniques under live conditions, right? And so going back to their ideas of games, that's what I think they're kind of getting at, which I think is a great idea. And again, I could be missing some of the stuff that they do, and so I'm not an expert in their thoughts. From what I gather, they're talking about work, right? My marketing rant there was basically just, whenever I see someone say, oh, you can sort of circumvent this process and you don't have to work hard and train hard, whatever, you can just work around it and become like a really good black belt, that's where I call bullshit, right? But if you're saying, hey, we've got some really good methods that could work for you and it's really good for training and you're still gonna have to put in the work, that's fine with me. Because I was looking at like the Greg Souders guy, I was looking at some of his games that he was playing or using with his guys. I mean, some of those games are gonna be exhausting. You're gonna put in some work doing that. So again, seems like a good idea to me. Also, just from personal experience, I find that as I get better with the technique, so let's say if I practice it under live conditions and then I come back to it later, I find that then when I'm drilling it, I have new things to feel for, new things to focus on, because like when I actually practice the technique in live conditions, things happen, right? People counter it in certain ways, or I figure out solutions to certain problems. And then when I come back to drilling it later on, I start to fill around in that area that I was focused on or having to develop when I was doing it in live conditions. Again, so I find personally, this is just my thing, I find a benefit in coming back to the passive drilling in between bouts of the active drilling where we're actually doing it in live conditions, rolling or scenario-based stuff. So yeah, guys, those are the ideas. I just wanted to share those with you guys and kind of clarify a few things. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope your training's going well. I'll talk to you guys next time.